Hello, my motor enthusiasts. Last week saw an upheaval in the world of Formula One, as the prospective Andretti Cadillac entry was given a red light by F1. This decision sparked a furor, especially among our friends across the pond, who hold the Andretti name in high regard. Formula One's justification? The iconic motorsport, it seems, would be bringing more value to the Andretti brand rather than vice versa. This verdict from F1 has caused quite a stir as they now hold the final say in new entries, a role previously held by the FIA. Despite facing the roadblock, Andretti remains steadfast in their plans to make it to the F1 grid. Curiously enough, a missed email invitation to a face-to-face meeting has added a layer of intrigue to the saga. Andretti has been quick to clarify their positions on several key points raised by F1, notably their readiness to build a car for the new 2026 regulations and the voluntary power unit supply arrangement with Renault. F1 raised concerns about potential operational burdens and reduced spaces for competitors, while Andretti questioned the approval of new venues with limited space. On the horizon, we see a works Cadillac project for 2028, which F1 does seem to show interest in, but the uncertainty prevails. Despite the roadblocks, Andretti's determination remains unshaken. A story of resilience and contention in the world of Formula One, isn't it? Greetings to our esteemed listeners. This is your host, Enzo. You're also joined by the astute and eloquent William Turner today.
Hello, everyone.
We're here every single day with you all on the F1 Motor Fever podcast. Do remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell. It makes a massive difference. Now, let's go full throttle.
Now, let's delve a bit deeper into why Andretti doesn't quite accept F1's rejection arguments. You see, since 2017, Liberty Media and Formula One have done quite a bit for the championship. However, last week's decision to reject the Andretti Cadillac entry hasn't gone down well with some people. This decision came exactly 7 years and 7 days after the handover from the former boss, Bernie Ecclestone, to the new CEO, Chase Carey. The crux of the matter is the headache of accommodating an 11th team as Concord negotiations with the existing 10 teams loom. F1's statement indicated that they hadn't consulted with the current teams, but they did take into account the impact of an 11th team on all commercial stakeholders. An area of contention is the reasoning that F1 would bring more value to the Andretti brand than the other way around. This decision stirred quite a storm, particularly among US fans. The Andretti name goes beyond motorsport in the US, a country that F1 is very keen to gain traction in. The fact that a sister Andretti team recently won a Formula E race, beating the likes of McLaren, certainly adds to the debate. A point of interest is that, in the past, adding new entries was the responsibility of the FIA, but the latest Concord agreement now gives F1 the final say. Andretti Cadillac is actually the first team to have made it through the initial stage of this new two-step process by gaining approval from the FIA. What's your opinion on this? Let's dig further into the matter. The process moved on to F1 for primarily commercially oriented assessment. A surprising twist was F1's focus on the technical aspects of the bid, given that the FIA had already reviewed and approved it. It makes one question why F1 would challenge an already approved decision. This development comes amidst an already tense relationship between FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem and F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali. The Andretti disagreement, no doubt, adds fuel to the fire. Andretti's response to the whole situation was fairly succinct, expressing their strong disagreement with F1's views and insisting that it was still full steam ahead. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Amidst the social media backlash that F1 was dealing with, the story of Lewis Hamilton possibly moving to Ferrari broke out. This drew attention away from the Andretti situation. However, Andretti reclaimed part of the news cycle late on Friday with a more detailed response. In the F1 statement, it was claimed that an invitation for an in-person meeting had been extended on the 12th of December, 2023, but Andretti did not take up the offer. This led to the implication that Andretti was reluctant to engage with F1. However, Andretti clarified that they were not even aware of the invitation and would welcome the opportunity to meet with Formula One management. The plot thickens. The email invitation, sent by an F1 employee rather than Domenicali, was found in a spam folder. Thus, F1 issued its rejection statement without conducting any face-to-face inquiries or hearing a presentation from Andretti, relying instead on the information given to the FIA and some supplementary questions submitted in October. It's a bit of a roller coaster, isn't it? What do you make of all this? Now, here's something rather interesting. F1 didn't visit the team's temporary design offices at Silverstone, where around 70 staff members, many of whom are former colleagues of F1's technical director Pat Simmons, are working. Andretti has well advanced with the design of an F1 car. Another point of contention was F1's assertion that Andretti, being a novice constructor, would struggle to build a car for the current 2025 rules and then immediately start making one for the brand new 2026 regulations. They stated that this made them question Andretti's understanding of the scope of the challenge. However, those working on the Andretti project have solid F1 experience, and they certainly understand the challenge. The limiting factor for a 2025 entry was the potential level of competitiveness that could be attained relative to when the green light was finally given. Given the extended time it took for the FIA and F1 to make their decisions, the window for launching a respectable effort in 2025 had closed. While it was still theoretically a possible start date, the team's focus had already switched to the new rules and an entry in 2026. There was also the matter of a compulsory power unit supply. Apparently, the power unit manufacturer with the fewest teams, which for a 2025 entry would be Renault, is obligated to supply a power unit to an entrant that doesn't otherwise have a deal. In 2026, Honda joins Renault under this definition as it will only be working with Aston Martin. So, how do you see all of this? Has the Andretti team been treated fairly, or are there valid concerns there? Just a quick detour, folks. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps us keep creating high-quality content for free. And don't forget to share it with your mates too. Remember, we're live every day with F1 Motor Fever podcast. On race weekends, we have special episodes. And Thursday morning? That's when our extra-long special episodes drop.
Brilliant. Spot on. Your likes really matter. Now let's get back on track.
F1 noted that the need for any new team to take a compulsory power unit supply, potentially over several seasons, could be detrimental to the prestige and standing of the championship. Quite an unusual stance, don't you think? Especially since the rule was debated, agreed upon, and inserted into the rulebook for good reasons. Andretti, however, doesn't fall under the compulsory category. They had an initial agreement to use Renault power, a deal that Renault entered into for sound business reasons and did not involve any arm twisting by the FIA. This agreement lapsed as the entry process became strung out, but the intention has been to reactivate it as soon as an entry is confirmed and a start date is clear. It's interesting to note that F1 questioned the applicant's proposal to depend on a compulsory supply from a rival power unit manufacturer. They voiced concerns that it could risk the intellectual property and know-how of the supplier. However, it's worth noting that the arrangement will be voluntary from Renault's side, and the scenario of a team using one manufacturer's power unit while designing its own for future use is a common one. Despite all the challenges, the silver lining here is that this situation isn't entirely new, and it's something that has been navigated before by other teams. Sometimes, it really is about survival and adaptation in the sport, isn't it?
Absolutely. You couldn't have put it better. It's indeed the survival of the fittest in this sport. And while we have these rules and regulations to maintain fairness and competitiveness, sometimes the ability to adapt to and navigate through these challenges is what truly separates the great from the good.
The addition of an 11th team would place an operational burden on race promoters, exposing them to significant costs and reducing the technical, operational, and commercial spaces of the other competitors. It's a bit surprising, don't you think?
Excuse me, surprising? It's more than that. It's a bit shocking, to say the least. This should have been thought through before encouraging teams to invest millions of dollars on the basis that there was space to accommodate them. It's not fair to these bidding teams. They were led to believe that there was room for them.
But we did see many pit lanes with a complete double garage set up for the upcoming Brad Pitt movie in 2023. There was a lot of space dedicated to hospitality as well. And if the space is truly a problem, there's provision for an 11th or even 12th team in the Concord Agreement.
Oh, stop it, will you? Why don't we just build a skyscraper in the middle of the track as well? There's a difference between having physical space and functional space for a team.
I disagree. Teams have invested so much time, effort, and money
You really are clueless sometimes, aren't you? You know what? I need a break.
Fine. Perhaps I need a glass of water to cool off. Excuse me for a moment.
Alright, off you go. So folks, how's it going? I must say, sometimes I wonder if Enzo is even listening to what he's saying. It's like he's in his own world of racing fantasies. But hey, that's what brings the spice to our discussions, right?
I'm back. Let's carry on. Now, where were we? It's complicated, isn't it? There are so many factors to consider. Andretti and Cadillac's initial competitiveness, for example, is a point that seems to have been overly scrutinized. No one expects a new team to come in and immediately vie for podiums.
True, it's a process, and each team needs time to work out their strategies, their vehicle's performance, and so on. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Exactly. And considering that Audi, with Sauber's 33-year head start, could possibly be the least competitive team at the start of 2026, it seems a bit unfair to place such high expectations on Andretti and Cadillac from the get-go.
Agreed. If the first Ford power unit is below par, then the Red Bull and RB teams could also be at the bottom of the order. It just goes to show the level of unpredictability in this sport.
It's all so uncertain. The future Concord Agreement that will come into force in 2026, for example, we don't know what kind of provision there will be for new teams or what the future dilution fee will be set at.
That's true. Things could change dramatically. There's one interesting aspect to a 2028 entry, though. While new power unit manufacturers fall under the FIA financial regulations up to 3 years before their entry, on the chassis side, Andretti will remain free of any financial or aero testing restrictions for a couple of years. They can spend whatever they want on research and development.
Yes, it's a complex situation, and the message for current teams hoping to see Andretti trip up is clear. Be careful what you wish for. The sport is constantly evolving, and it's the teams that can adapt and innovate that will come out on top. William, fancy giving us a quick glance at what the online users are discussing today?
Absolutely, Enzo. So, here we have a post by Nonstop Flux discussing salaries in Formula One. He asks, quote, "Paddock jobs, what's the salary like? With discussions around Bono moving, I was wondering how much people in positions like his might make. It sounds like F1 teams pay pretty poorly compared to comparable positions in industry. What is someone like Bono, GP, or Xavi making in 2024? What about department heads in marketing, logistics, etc.?" Unquote.
Ah, the never-ending question of money in the sport. What's the public's take on it?
User Dry Salamander 9437 responded, quote, "Salaries are relatively low. I applied for an aerodynamicist position at Mercedes, and the salary was not worth me quitting my PhD in America. There's a lot of people trying to work for Formula One teams, and not a lot of positions, so they get to set their price low, and someone will take it." Unquote.
Indeed, demand often outpaces supply in this industry. Any other interesting remarks?
Another user, Zeke42, chimed in with a comparison, quote, "Software engineers in the US start at 6 digits fresh out of university though." Unquote.
Well, that does put things into perspective, doesn't it?
It certainly does. In fact, Sam Wears a Bucket Hat added, quote, "I did a master's in electrical engineering and a bachelor's in mathematics, and I'm making a 6-digit salary. So swings and roundabouts really." Unquote.
As always, it seems that pay scales vary significantly depending on the role and the individual's qualifications.
Yes, and one user, Aspis Chungus, even mentioned that the cost cap has made the situation worse.
Fascinating insights there. Thanks for sharing, William. It's important that we remember the professionals behind the scenes who keep the wheels turning, often for less financial reward than we might expect. Well, that brings us to the end of another riveting episode of F1 Motor Fever podcast. We discussed a lot today, from team dynamics to the less glamorous but equally important topic of salaries within the sport. We always appreciate your company, and it's been brilliant to share these insights with you all.
Hey, and don't forget, folks, while you're enjoying that cuppa and digesting all this Formula One knowledge, give us a quick share on your socials. It's how we can keep this show on the road, or should I say, on the track.
Yes, absolutely. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe and activate notifications so you'll never miss a minute of the action. and we do love reading your comments, so keep them coming.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Enzo Watts. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we're with you every day, bringing you the latest and greatest from the world of F1. And stay tuned, because there's always more to come.
Indeed, there is. We're grateful for your continued support and can't wait to bring you more in-depth discussion in our next episode. So until then, William and Enzo, pedal to the metal, keep your gaze on the road. Our channel's content is pure gold.